In my book, No Way to Fight a War, I quote Chief of Naval Operations Gary Roughhead back around 2009 as saying that diversity was the #1 priority at the Naval Academy, and that the then Superintendent Vice Admiral Jeffrey Fowler stated that we all know what diversity means. It means non-white skin at the Naval Academy. So in that context, I wrote a little bit about diversity. Well, this last week, the 1st of July 2014, the priority of diversity came to full bloom with the promotion of the first woman in the Navy to the rank of Admiral, 4-star Admiral, Admiral Michelle Howard. And so I'll leave it up to you. Read my book. You can get an idea of how I feel about the diversity policy in the military and in the Navy in particular. But what interested me most was that Admiral Howard had kind of an interesting background. As a surface warfare officer, I was interested in knowing what her background was. And I learned that early in her career, after she graduated from the Naval Academy in 1982, I believe, she was assigned to an ammunition ship. At the time, ammunition ships, and I remember during my career, we had an admiral who would become Chief of Naval Operations by the name of Jeremy Borda. Yeah, he's the one that committed suicide too. But Admiral Borda was a very prominent surface warfare officer leading up to his eventual appointment to Chief of Naval Operations. And one of the things that Admiral Borda had to say about ships like ammunition ships and logistics ships and amphibious ships, the Gator Navy, was that they were fat ships and that they weren't quite up to the same standards and the same level of excitement that the destroyer cruiser force had enjoyed. And that's where Admiral Borda came from. So he was kind of biased toward the destroyer navy. So I thought it'd be interesting, and following Admiral Howard's career along, I learned that not only was she assigned to fat ships, but she was an amphib surface warfare officer, and I served a tour aboard USS Bristol County, an amphib, and I'm proud of that fact. I happen to think that the Amphib Navy, or the Gator Navy that hauls around Marines, accomplishes truly an important mission, if not the most important mission that we have. Certainly in recent history, and certainly in World War II as well. Anyway, I learned that Admiral Howard had been the executive officer aboard a Whidbey Island class LSD, landing ship dock, as well as being a commanding officer of aboard USS Rushmore, also Whidbey Island class LSD. She went on to become Amphibious Group, or Squadron 7, Fibron 7 in San Diego, which was my old squadron that our ship belonged to. And she went on to command a expeditionary group, also an amphib assignment. So I was trying to recall, I said, when's the last time we promoted a amphibious officer, flag officer, to the rank of admiral? I couldn't remember one, so I dug into it a little bit, and here are some of the results. Let me explain a little bit of inside baseball for those of you that didn't grow up in the Navy. One is that the Navy's divided, the operational Navy is divided up into roughly 3 groups, or unions, if you happen to understand that concept. One is submarines, the other is aviation, and the other is surface ships, surface warfare. within there's rivalry among those groups, and it's from within those groups that are selected the leadership, the flag officers of the Navy. They come from that operational part of the Navy. They're either aviators, submariners, or surface warfare officers that ascend to the highest ranks in the Navy. That's just the way it works. They're unrestricted line officers. However, getting into surface warfare, there are a couple of distinct, or actually three, I guess, unions, if you want to call them that. One is the Cruiser-Destroyer Navy, the Gator Navy or Amphib Navy, and the Logistics Navy. For those officers assigned to positions in the Amphibious Navy and the Logistics Navy, it's kind of regarded as a kiss of death. And let me explain why that is. I did a comparison of surface warfare officer command opportunities, and I looked at several classes of ships that have come about since roughly 1960. One being these are commander commands, 05 commands, and in the Amphib Navy you have principal classes of LSDs and formerly the LST, the landing ship tank ship that was around in fairly high numbers, and those were the commander commands that surface warfare officers were eligible to aspire to. Of the various classes, the Anchorage class, the Whidbey Island class, and the new Harper's Ferry class LSD, along with the Newport class LSTs, there were, over the period of their lifetime up until the present day, there were 549 surface warfare officer commanding officers of those ships. Of those, only 10 of them ever made it to the rank of admiral, and that includes Admiral Howard. She's the first and only amphibious officer that I could find that had achieved the 4-star rank. Now, let me put that a little bit in perspective. I thought it'd be interesting, and I can show you a picture of it. I can personally relate to it. There was a class of guided missile destroyers, formerly called guided missile frigates, DLGs, became DDGs in 1975 by some stroke of the pen, called the Kuntz class. And it came around in the early 60s, and it was really the first class of missile shooters, and it kind of signified the transition from the World War II ships that had guns to the post-World War II era, the guided missile era, the nuclear era. And the Kuntz class had roughly the same crew size and the same displacement as these LST amphibs. So I was interested, and I said, okay, over the roughly 30-year lifespan of the Kuntz class DDG, what were the command opportunities and how many of them made flag rank? And I was astounded to see that of 170 officers that served as commanding officers aboard the Kuntz class 10-ship class, as compared to the 37 total ships of the LST, the Newport class LST, and all those LSDs, there were 170 officers that served as commanding officers, and 45 of them were promoted to flag rank. Of that, 7 of these 45 officers were promoted eventually to vice admiral, and 8 of them got promoted to not only through vice admiral, but got promoted up to the full admiral 4-star rank, including 2 chiefs of naval operations. That's Admiral Borda and Admiral Zumwalt. were commanding officers in this class of ship. So I'll let you do the math. 170 and 45 flag selectees, and then of the Amphibious Navy, 549 opportunities, and only 10 of them promoted. Only 2 to Vice Admiral rank, and 1 Admiral Howard to the full Admiral. This is the diversity thing I'm most interested in for our chiefs of naval operations. There have been many surface warfare officer chiefs of naval operations. All of them have come from the cruiser destroyer force. None of them have come from the Gator or logistics force. And I'm just asking the question, where should we be putting our emphasis here, and what's really going on with the area of diversity? Seems to me that not that much diversity when it comes to the Amphibious Navy and the Logistics Navy.